Personnel security controls exist because risk is not only technical, and it is also shaped by how people are given access and responsibility. Systems do what people allow them to do, and misuse often occurs when authority, access, and accountability are concentrated too tightly in one role.
Personnel controls structure trust so that individuals can do their jobs effectively without being placed in positions where mistakes or abuse can cause disproportionate harm.
This approach assumes that pressure, error, and temptation are part of real organizations, not rare anomalies. By designing roles and responsibilities deliberately, organizations reduce reliance on individual perfection and replace it with predictable, reviewable safeguards. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to the CISS books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Separation of duties is the foundational concept that divides critical steps across multiple roles so no single person can complete a high-risk action alone. This principle applies broadly, from financial transactions to system administration to security configuration changes. When one person can initiate, approve, and execute an action, the opportunity for misuse or undetected error increases significantly. Separation introduces natural checks by requiring collaboration or independent review before sensitive actions complete. It also reduces the likelihood that mistakes propagate unnoticed because another set of eyes is inherently involved. Dual control is a more explicit form of separation that requires two authorized individuals to participate in particularly high-impact actions. This is commonly used for activities such as releasing encryption keys, approving large fund transfers, or making irreversible configuration changes. Dual control raises the threshold for misuse by ensuring that intent and correctness are confirmed by more than one party. It also protects individuals from coercion or unilateral pressure because they are not solely responsible for executing the action. When dual control is applied thoughtfully, it balances security with operational practicality. Job rotation reduces long-term hidden control risks by periodically changing responsibilities among qualified personnel. When one individual performs the same sensitive function indefinitely, opportunities for concealment increase, whether intentional or accidental. Rotation disrupts that continuity and makes irregularities more visible because fresh eyes encounter existing processes and records. It also builds organizational resilience by ensuring that critical knowledge is not locked into a single person. Job rotation is not about distrust, and it is about transparency and continuity of operations. Mandatory vacations serve a similar purpose by forcing temporary transfer of duties and access. When an individual is required to step away completely, ongoing processes must continue without them, which can reveal irregularities or undocumented practices. This control has historically been effective in detecting fraud and misuse, precisely because it interrupts continuous personal control. Mandatory vacations also support well-being and reduce burnout, which indirectly reduces error and risky behavior. The security benefit arises from enforced absence combined with proper handoff and oversight. Privileged access governance defines who may administer systems, approve changes, and override normal controls, and it is central to personnel security. Privileged roles carry disproportionate power, so assignment must be deliberate and justified by business need. Governance ensures that privileges are granted through formal approval, reviewed regularly, and removed when no longer necessary. It also defines acceptable use of privilege, including prohibitions on personal activity and requirements for accountability. Without governance, privileged access expands quietly,
and becomes one of the most dangerous sources of insider risk.
Onboarding processes establish the initial security posture for individuals by assigning roles, training, and access aligned to job function. Effective onboarding ensures that access is granted intentionally rather than opportunistically. Training sets expectations for acceptable behavior, data handling, and escalation paths before access is used in practice. Role-based access assignment limits exposure from the start and reduces the need for later correction. When onboarding is structured, new personnel become productive without inheriting unnecessary risk. Mover processes address the common risk that arises when responsibilities change but access does not. Promotions, lateral moves, and temporary assignments all require access updates that reflect new duties. Without disciplined mover processes, individuals accumulate permissions that reflect past roles rather than current needs. This access creep is rarely malicious, but it creates latent risk that is difficult to justify or monitor. Structured mover controls ensure that access evolves in step with responsibility rather than lagging behind it.
Offboarding processes are a critical control point because they close the loop on access when an individual leaves a role or the organization entirely. Prompt removal of accounts, cryptographic keys, badges, and privileged entitlements reduces the window of opportunity for misuse. Offboarding must be coordinated across systems to avoid residual access through forgotten integrations or shared credentials. Timing matters because delays can undermine otherwise strong controls. A disciplined offboarding process treats departure as both an administrative and security event.
Background screening supports personnel security by providing context about individuals before they are granted sensitive access. The depth of screening should align with role sensitivity and access scope rather than applying a single standard universally. High privilege or high trust roles justify more rigorous checks because the potential impact of misuse is greater. Screening does not predict future behavior, but it reduces unknowns at the point where trust is extended. When combined with ongoing controls, screening contributes to a layered approach rather than serving as a one-time gate. Acceptable use policies define expectations for how systems, data, and organizational resources may be used. These policies provide a clear standard against which behavior can be evaluated and enforced. They also protect individuals by clarifying boundaries and reducing ambiguity about what is permitted. For acceptable use to be effective, it must be communicated clearly and reinforced consistently. Policies that exist only on paper do little to shape behavior or support accountability.
Monitoring of privileged actions provides traceability for administrative activity and reinforces separation of duties in practice. Logging who performed which actions, when, and under what authorization creates an audit trail that supports both detection and deterrence. Privileged monitoring does not assume wrongdoing, and it ensures that powerful actions are observable and reviewable. When individuals know that actions are logged and reviewed, misuse becomes harder to conceal. Monitoring also supports incident response by enabling rapid reconstruction of administrative changes. Coordination with human resources is essential because personnel security controls intersect with employment practices, investigations, and disciplinary processes. Human resources provides context about role changes, performance issues, and organizational events that may affect risk. Coordination ensures that technical findings are handled consistently with policy and legal requirements. It also prevents fragmented responses where access is modified without addressing underlying personnel concerns. When security and human resources operate together, responses are both effective and defensible. Personnel security controls and separation of duties reduce misuse by structuring access across the entire personnel lifecycle. From onboarding through role changes to offboarding, access is aligned with responsibility rather than convenience. Separation of duties, dual control, and rotation limit the concentration of power, while monitoring and governance provide accountability. Policies and coordination reinforce expectations and ensure consistent handling of issues. When these controls work together, entrusted access remains productive without becoming a single point of failure.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.